Welcome to the Celina Radio Podcast, the voice of Celina, Texas, where the streets on the square are still made of brick, the pride is real, and the Facebook threads are just as entertaining as Friday Night Football. Celina is growing fast, but at our core, we're still a small town built on faith, family, and fierce community pride. And sure, we've got our quirks, our passionate debates, our small town politics, and a whole lot of people around here who aren't afraid to speak their mind. But that's what makes this place special. Whether you're a lifelong local or brand new to town, this is where we celebrate the heart of Celina, and occasionally we stir the pot, just a little bit. So let's talk Celina, unfiltered, unapologetic, and proud to call Celina, Texas, home.
All right, guys, I'm here today with somebody that you might not actually know just yet. And the reason that you wouldn't know him yet is because he's been in his newly elected office only for a short time. His name happens to be Scott Grigg, not with an S on the end. Is that right?
That's right.
Scott Grigg, and you happen to have been elected as what?
I am the Collin County Tax Assessor.
Collin County Tax Assessor. So let me just ask you this, like right off the bat. Back in the day, whenever I was a police officer, a lot of times, depending on who I was talking to, they'd be like, oh, who are you? Or whatever, you introduce yourself. And you're like, and what do you do? Oh, I'm a police officer. It changed sometimes, the expression on their face. Do you ever run into that as the tax collector?
Oh, absolutely. As soon as you say tax collector, sometimes there's even a murmur, almost a boo.
Right.
But I always try to remind them, it's okay, guys. Jesus hung out with them. It's okay.
So it is a different deal. And how long have you actually been in that position now? I know you just recently won the election. Was that back in November?
Yes, November. I took my oath of office on January 1st. Of course, that being a holiday, got my staff sworn in on the 2nd. We've been rocking and rolling ever since. Collected that first quarter, almost $2.4 billion.
Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. So what did you do prior to that? Because you weren't born and grew up, and probably didn't grow up back in the day saying, I want to be a tax assessor collector. But what'd you do just before this?
Right before this, I was actually working with our courts. I was a legal clerk for one of our justice courts down in Plano.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's very, very interesting. As long as I've known you, I never knew that you did that. So that's very interesting. You've got to have some sort of like accounting background or something, I would assume. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm a certified fraud examiner.
Okay.
I spent over 3 decades in accounting, finance for major Fortune 500 companies. I kind of joke around with some of my best friends. Walked into a stadium one day. My best friend looked at me and said, "Look at your resume." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Looked up at the scoreboard. Tyson Foods, Walmart, Coca-Cola, Aaron's Lease-to-Own Furniture. I have been a senior auditor for all 4 of those companies.
Oh, wow. Wow. So definitely have that. So let me just ask you this, and we're going to talk a little bit about who you are and where you live and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about all that, but it's fascinating to me because math is the very reason. Let me just say it like this. My daughter asked me recently why I wasn't a doctor, and I said because of math. So I'm wondering, when I find people who are good with numbers and math and stuff like that, it's intriguing to me. Have you always been really good at math?
Yes, God's given me some kind of gift that I can look at a set of numbers and just, if there's something odd, it's going to stand out to me, and I can see it, and it's like, where did that come from? And recently we were out of balance, and I told the staff, said, bring me the bank account, bring me the reports. I'm going to look at this.
Right.
Then a couple of days, I found where we were off. They've been working on it for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, how did you find that so quickly? Can you explain it to me? I'm like, No, I can't explain it to you. It just happened.
Yeah, it's more like a gift. It's not an actual thing that you can learn. So you've always been good at math, and then you guys live right now. You live up here in Collin County, obviously, in Saxe, if I'm right about that.
That's correct.
So Saxe, tell me about that city. What's going on over there right now? I knew Saxe. Oh my gosh, over 30 years ago, driving through there sometimes. And has that grown over there?
You know, the county is growing as a whole, but it seems like we're growing on the two corners. Mm-hmm. You guys are growing up here by leaps and bounds.
Celina's not growing. Celina's definitely not growing. No.
Yeah, I only drove around 150,000 cones on the way up here. You know, the Texas flower is the cone, the orange cone.
That's right.
Saxe, Wiley, you know, we're growing in the southeast corner. We're growing in the northwest corner, and so those two parts of the county are growing by leaps and bounds. Saxe is one of those unique cities that half of it's in one county, half of it's in another.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So when my wife and I got married, we had that luxury of, she lived in the Collin County side. So we had that option that we could live where I was or where she was.
Gotcha. So what is the other? Is it Dallas County on the other side, or what county is it?
Dallas.
Okay. All right. Very good. So they're growing out there. When you got here today, of course, we're in I always call it the famous blue house right off the square, and it's only famous because it's like electric blue with a yellow door. And a color that we had no, part in painting, myself and my wife. It kind of came that way to us, but right across the street. Did you see what's going on right across the street?
You got cranes up, a lot of concrete going up. It's kind of like at the admin building. I don't know if you've been to the admin building over in McKinney, but I lost a good portion of my parking. There's cranes going up. I've got a big portable AC unit for the admin building right outside my office. So if you just need to listen to some humming all day long, come hang out in my office. It just kind of hums all day.
Gotcha. Well, you may hear a little bit of what's going on here outside as well. It just kind of depends on how hot I've got these mics, and hopefully we don't hear a lot of cranes and stuff today. And more importantly, hopefully that crane over there doesn't fall this way today. That would not be it'd be, the tax Assessor-Collector served just for a short amount of time. It didn't make it very long. He was in the middle of a podcast. We don't want that to happen. But tell me this. One of the things that I thought that was so timely and so interesting is the fact that property tax statements just went out, if I'm correct. Or maybe I checked my mail late. Maybe they went out a long time ago and I'm just now getting all my mail. But it seems like they just arrived recently. Is that correct?
Actually, it's not the property tax statements; it's our appraisal notices that came out.
Okay, can you explain the difference? I'm gonna definitely. I don't have to play the role of a person that doesn't know all about this because I don't know all about this, but it's interesting to me. So it's not; those are appraisal notices, not the actual invoice, so to speak, yet.
Right.
Okay, tell me all about that.
So the appraisal notices come from our central appraisal district. They don't come from my office. So those came out on April 15th. And it's what the appraisal office decided that our properties were worth as of January 1st of this year.
Gotcha.
Those rolled out on April 15th. By statute, we have 15 days. They always need to come out on the 15th of April.
Okay.
We have 30 days if we decide we want to protest that value.
Meaning a homeowner. So
a homeowner.
I get a statement and they say, here's what we think that your home is worth right now, your property. And that means the actual structures, the land value, etc. And then what happens if I don't agree with that amount? If I think it's too high, I doubt anybody'd ever think it was too low and want to argue that hey, I think y'all underestimated this, but that's probably happened. But if I think it's too high, they've estimated it too high, what can I do about that?
Well, the process here is you go online and you can fill out an application online. And basically, you're putting the appraisal district on notice that you're planning to protest. And one of the things that they're going to ask you is, what do you think it's worth? And you're going to put a number in there. It starts kind of informal. You're just going to kind of talk to an appraiser. Right. And you're going to say, hey, this is what I think it is. and they're going to look at it. They may give you an offer. They say, okay, we can see that. And they may give you an offer. You can either accept their offer, and if you accept it, you're done. If you don't accept it, then you're going to move on into the process.
Okay.
The next step in the process is you go in front of a 3-person panel called our Appraisal Review Board.
Okay.
You're going to get a chance to present your case. They're going to present their case, and they're going to make a decision. They may decide with you. They may decide with the appraisal district. They may meet somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
And then you have a decision to make. Are you going to accept their decision?
Okay.
You can go farther, but like anything else, the farther you go, the more time and effort and money you're going to put into it.
Okay. So what would be the next step past that? If, let's say, you didn't agree with this ARB, this Appraisal Review Board, what would be the next step? Does it then actually go into like some sort of a court?
You can go up to the district courts, or you can file an appeal with the comptroller's office. There's actually an interesting bill that is being kind of talked about in Austin right now, that you can actually go, if it passes, you will be able to go in front of our justice of the court judges.
Okay.
As long as the value of the taxes is under $20,000, because that's the value that a justice court can hear.
Okay. So like you could go into like, for example, over here, I think in Frisco is like JP Court 4.
Right.
So that judge, that JP or that justice of the peace, that JP would then be able to hear it as long as the amount in question is under $20,000.
But if the taxes due would be under $20,000.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, your dispute may be $50,000 as far as the value, but your taxes on that $50,000 is going to be less than $20,000.
Gotcha.
So you'd be able to go to the justice court. One of the great benefits of that is the fees at a justice court are much less than they are at the district court level.
Right. So it saves, obviously it lowers the caseload on the higher courts. Mm-hmm. And I'm certain that they've probably got a few other things going on besides just, somebody arguing over, $20,000 or $30,000 valuation on their property or whatever. But nonetheless, it lowers that caseload, and like you said, the fees are less. So it sounds like a pretty good deal, but that's not passed yet. That's just like a proposed bill or something that's just being kicked around. Is that what
that's
that
a bill
is?
that's been filed.
Okay.
And of course, it hasn't gone to a vote yet. It's been filed in the House. Of course, if it passes, then it'll have to go to the Senate.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, when it gets passed, if it does get passed by both houses, then it'll go to the governor, and then it would take place. I believe the way that one's worded, it'll go into effect the 1st of September of this year.
Gotcha. Wow, that's very good. So help me understand this, and some of this is going to be maybe in your wheelhouse, and some of it not, because as of right now, I don't know who all has specific responsibilities or jurisdiction or whatever in some of these different things. But just based on your knowledge, how often is it that if someone decides to protest their taxes and goes to that ARB thing and disputes their taxes and decides to take that second step, they don't settle with some sort of an online offer, nothing gets worked out preliminarily, they go in person, they do this little deal, how many of those cases actually reach some sort of a conclusion that's acceptable to both sides, would you say?
I think that's maybe a third.
Okay, so maybe 2/3 actually go past that then.
2/3, they have to get to a 90%, about a 95% in order to be a certified roll.
Okay.
So, but as far as getting to where one person is completely happy, about a third.
Oh, wow.
Either that, it just gets to a point that no one's willing to take it any farther.
I gotcha. I understand. So because the time commitment, the expenses, everything else, and ultimately, obviously, it's kind of like in a lot of civil action, if somebody says, hey, well, I'm going to sue you over this, we have a $5,000 fence we put up and you didn't pay us all the money we had coming. You paid us half of it, $2,500. It may be worth it to go to JP court and fight that. But to try and take that further, and the court costs and everything else, before long, $2,500 is kind of a moot point.
Right.
Because it costs too much. And so, it may get in these cases where people are like, well, I don't want to, the filing fees are too much. The time commitment is too much. So I'm going to go ahead and settle with this number or whatever. But I remember, now this is going way back. I started doing real estate in the 80s. Okay. And I remember back in the 80s, pretty much if you protested your taxes, there was no online anything, but if you protested your taxes, they were going to adjust it down for you. It was just, you were taking the time, making the effort to actually go down in front of the board and do that. They always came down. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think now it's changed a lot. From what I understand, you can go in front of the board and walk away with really no win or whatever you want to call it, no adjustment in your favor. Are you aware of anything like that? Is that do you have a perspective on that?
I think the availability of information and how quick we can get information does make it a little harder to get your adjustment the way you want it. And if you don't go in there organized and you don't go in there with the right attitude, you're not going to get anywhere. Back in the 80s, you couldn't get your comps as quickly.
No, they were actually printed in books.
Right. I mean, just like nowadays we can pull up the maps and see where the property lines and stuff are.
Right.
We actually can, you got all the technology, you stick something in the ground and you can get a pin right off your cell phone.
Right.
I remember selling real estate way back in the days too, and you're looking for that metal pin, or you're looking, you're looking for that rock that someone painted purple.
Right.
Next to the tree that someone cut down 5 years ago, and it's not as easy.
Right.
Now, the technology we have, the information is so much easier to get.
Right.
We do these classes. I've done these classes for over 6 years, going on 7 years, where I give advice and try to give people some guidelines on how to do this protest. And I tell them, one of the first things I tell them is, guys, have the right attitude.
And what exactly, when you say have the right attitude, like, what does that mean for someone, going in? Like, don't go in being like rude and mean and ugly, or like, what does that mean?
If you go in there with this attitude that they're 100% wrong and you're 100% right, mm-hmm. and how dare you do this to me, they're going to get defensive.
Right.
And they're going to put their heels in.
Right.
They're going to dig in, and they're not going to give any.
Gotcha.
Or if you go in there unorganized, I remember back in the day, one of the reasons that I changed my major from being from a CPA is federal taxation, when they hand you this big box of random receipts and they basically dumped it down.
Right.
That's one reason I did.
Yeah, that's
want to be a CPA.
That's not fun.
Didn't want to do that the rest of my life.
Right.
If you're not organized and you go in there, they're not going to listen to you.
Gotcha. So what do you need to take in with you when you go in there? Like, what is the good data? Because as a real estate person myself, I have an awful lot of people right around this time, as you can imagine, asking me for comps. Like, everybody wants comps, and they're trying to prove a certain value on their property by using these comps. And I don't know if there's necessarily a formula. Like, do you need to show more sold properties, things that are currently listed? Like, what do people need to walk in with, in your opinion?
Per the code, the value is supposed to be as close to January 1st. That's the value. So the first thing you want to do is you want to ask the appraisal district, what are your comps? What did you use to come to this value?
Gotcha.
So they're going to give you 3 or 4 properties that they use to come up with that. So as a real estate agent, if I call you and say, hey, I need your comps, you want to get your client things. It could be in December. but you want to get as close to that first of the year as you possibly can.
Gotcha.
Because that's the value you're looking for. What was on the first? And do that comparison. So if you're looking at that comparison, say you get the comps from the CAD and you look at those houses and then you try to pick your house apart and figure out what does those houses have that yours doesn't.
Okay.
And I talk about this a lot. Our homes are by far probably our biggest investment.
Right.
Both financially and emotionally. This is where we raise our family. We got the little tick marks where little Johnny grew up
over the years.
Right.
That's right.
We got that little dent in the door where someone came running around the corner and didn't quite turn fast enough.
Right.
We've got those emotional things, and we look at our homes. That's our home. It's not just a building. It's our home. And I tell people all the time when it comes down to protesting, you gotta not look at it that way.
Take the emotion out.
You got to look at this place like it's the biggest dump on the block. You got to take all that stuff out. You got to look at that mark on the door, not as a memory, as crap, I got to fix this.
Right.
And you got to figure out what it's going to cost. And so once you figure out all those things that have to be fixed, you need new flooring. The shag carpet ain't going to do. The Formica countertops got to be replaced. The roof needs to be repaired. All those windows that have the seals broken and they all look foggy. Like when you get in the car in the morning and it's fogged up because your defroster doesn't work very well.
Right.
All those things that you need fixed, you got to make a list there.
Gotcha.
And that's not enough. Then you got to make some phone calls. You got to get written estimates because it's not enough to go in there with a list of here's the houses you compared it to. Here's all the things I need to do to my house to compare to those houses.
Gotcha.
And you need written estimates so you can show the appraisal district, here's what it's going to cost me to bring my house up to those standards.
Right.
And it needs to be in writing. Doesn't mean you're going to do them all, but you got to show them proof of what it's going to cost.
I understand.
And if you go in there with that organized and you got the written proof, then you got an evidence. You're proving a case. It's not a court of law. You're not got a judge and a jury, but you got kind of a jury. You got these 3-person panel there, and you need at least 2 of the votes. You got to convince 2 of them that you're right and the appraisal district's wrong.
So you present all of this. They have their information, their data. You've got yours. And then do you know, just, I guess, protocol-wise, like what happens next? Do they say, because like you said, it's not a court of law. They're not going to say, all right, closing arguments. They're not going to do it like that. But you've kind of said your piece. They've made their statements. They've stated their position and provided their evidence, so to speak, of why your home is worth this much. What happens next?
And like I said, they're going to make a decision. They could go with the appraisal district, say, no, you haven't convinced us that they're not right. Or they could say, you've convinced us. You're right.
And does this happen in real time in front of you, or do they go behind closed doors and talk? What's that like?
It's all right there in front of you. And they publish those rules. One of the things that I get the benefit of doing is I'm on the board for the CAD. Mm-hmm. As the elected tax collector, I get to sit on that board. And one of the things that the appraisal district, the ARB, does is they set those rules out. And those rules, those guidelines are published in the room. You can read those rules. They're online. And it tells you exactly how that hearing is going to be held.
Gotcha.
And you can follow those, read it, and it tells you exactly how the process is going to work. They're going to make the decision, and then you're going to walk out there, and you, like I said, you accept their decision, then you're done. And they will then update it in their system, and it becomes part of the certified roll.
Gotcha. So
they have to get all that done by July, because that's when our school boards hold their budget hearings, and they set their tax rate. And that's their deadline. every year there's a cycle.
Right.
And right now we're in that cycle where we're doing the initial appraisal values.
Right. So a lot of people, and I've been asked this so many times because, right now is when I'm pulling all these comps for people and stuff. But I've been asked so many times, okay, when I go down there, what's it going to be like? And I go, what do you mean? And I already know what they mean because I've been asked the question 1,000 times. Well, I mean, is it like a dark room and like they have a light shining on you or is there a whole bunch of people watching? Maybe there's a lot of people down there and like you have to say all this and do all this in front of a whole big audience. Like, what's it like? So can you respond to that? And in your experience, what is that situation like?
No, you've got your 3-person panel. You got the appraisal district representative, the appraiser, and you've got you. And like I said, both of you are going to present your case. The 3-person panel is going to make their decision, and you're just in a small room, probably not much bigger than what we're sitting in right now. And it may not even be that big, depending on how they separate it out. During the COVID years, they actually did it on a Zoom.
Right. I remember that.
And like I said, you can go online and you can read the rules. They set the guideline out, and they, of course, a lot of it's written in some kind of legalese sometimes.
Right.
Leave it up to government. We have to make everything sound a little harder than it is.
A little more complicated.
Yeah,
right.
We have to, double speak.
Right.
Everything. But it's one of those things that the appraisal district, while it's not my job, it's not what I was elected to do. Here's my take on it. It's part of the process that in turn comes up with that tax statement that you first talked about, which will come out in October. I feel that if I'm going to collect the funds that in the end is the end result of this process, I should know the process.
Right.
I should be able to answer those questions. I was elected to collect the taxes. And as that elected official, I feel I can do a better job to make sure that the funds are collected properly. I should be able to answer the questions of all the taxpayers of how did we get to this number?
Right.
If you're going to write me a check of $1,000, $5,000, believe it or not, I've gotten $1 million checks from some of these commercial real estate people.
Sure.
If you're going to write me that check, I should be able to answer these type of questions.
Right on. And we appreciate that, which is why I supported you in that election, because I knew it would be like this. And so, and I would expect nothing less. You're doing exactly what I would expect you to do. You're well versed in how this stuff works. I knew you'd be, I just knew ahead of time before I asked you that you'd probably be willing to come here, talk about all of this stuff because you care about this. You truly do. And so, and that was a tough little election. That was a rough little election for a minute, and you stayed very above board. And you had your truck with the graphics on it and stuff. I have to ask you, that was like a Chevy or a GMC pickup, if I remember right, or Dodge?
It's a Ford.
A Ford. Okay, I was way off. Okay, it shows what I remember. So you've got this pickup, and you've got it all, your name all over it and stuff. Does that truck still exist right now?
Absolutely.
Does it still have all that stuff on it?
Yes, it does.
And will it stay that way?
We're going to do a little update on it.
Okay.
My wife told me the other day, you need to take the word "for" off because you're no longer trying to be the tax collector. You are the tax collector.
Right.
And so we're going to do a little update on it and maybe do a little redesign.
Good.
For those of you who haven't seen it, it's very patriotic.
It is.
It is the beacon of all things conservative within Collin County. If you go into a patriotic event and you're not sure you're in the right place, look for my truck. If you're looking for a patriotic event, you see my truck, you know you've arrived to where you're supposed to be.
Exactly.
So
I have seen that truck quite a lot. And so you got through that election, and it got a little sticky at the end, but you overcame all of that stuff. And we're not going to go back and rehash all that stuff, but let's just say, sometimes the very things that people despise most about politics, actually, you get to see them play out. And that's why it's called that. And it's almost like a curse word now. You say politics, it's like a bad word. And we're experiencing some of that right now in Celina, unfortunately. And I have become quite the proponent of taking politics as usual out of politics. And that doesn't mean, a lot of people say, oh, Ron, you've got this pie in the sky idea. Like, that'll never happen. We're not going to kumbaya and all get along. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking that we treat each other with a certain level of dignity and respect, and that we understand that for the majority, it's probably safe to say that we all want to improve whatever it is that we're running for, be it school board, city council, tax assessor collector. For the most part, people are getting in it because they've got a vision and they want to, carry that vision out to, existence. And unfortunately, the negative part of that is that you end up, I guess, in this modern day where, you have to, it's dirty politics sometimes. People do things in order to win because they feel so strongly about winning that they're willing to do things that, it's not really biblical. It's not really what, I would think if I was having this meeting right now with my campaign team and Jesus was sitting right here in this chair and we bounced this idea around, would he be in favor of it or not? And I think a lot of times these things that you and I know as dirty politics, I think Jesus would say, no, don't do that. Find another way to win this election. Do it in love. Do it with respect. Do it with all of the things that I ask you to reflect. And that's not what that is. So did that experience you went through, did that ruin you from politics now? Or are you kind of good and feel good about overcoming all of that stuff? How do you feel about that after having gone through it now?
No, I'm very proud of the race that we ran. I'm very proud of my team. And the great thing is that every night I got to go to bed and I got to sleep with a good conscience.
That matters.
Because I knew that if Jesus had been in that room, he would have been okay with the decisions we made.
Right.
And, there were times that, it gets hard because I knew what I was getting into. It got hard because some of my loved ones, how it impacted them.
Absolutely.
My wife, that's not what she signed up for.
Right.
As a mama bear, I guess is, the term there, she protects those that she loves.
Absolutely.
And there was days that it hurt. It bothered her.
Of course.
And we just kind of had to step away and call to the Lord and remind each other why we were doing this.
Right on.
And this was my second campaign. We started dating towards the end of my first one, and where we came up a little short. And I was asked, did you ever think about not running a second time? And I can honestly say for about 15 seconds.
Right.
And that was because of a conversation that her and I had. We were planning our lives together, planning our future together. And I sat her down and I said, listen, this is not what you think we need to do. If this is not where you want to go, I'm done. We'll throw the campaign signs in the recycle. We'll take the name off the truck. Not taking the eagle or the flag off, but I'll take the campaign sign off.
Right.
And we'll wait for God to show us the next path.
Right on.
And it took her all about 15 seconds to say, absolutely not. This is where God has called you. This is where he wants you. And I have been praying about this, and I feel this is where he needs you. And so we buckled down and we got to work. And this was a labor of love. I mean, we worked hard.
Absolutely.
This wasn't something that I I didn't just write a check, go knock on a couple of doors, put out a couple of signs, and just lay back and hope that it came to me.
Right.
Tens of thousands of doors, lots of time away from people I wanted to be with.
Sure.
Because I felt that's where God wanted me.
Right.
And I get to go to the office every morning. Took a little time to spend with my dad last week, and it drove me nuts because I didn't know what was going on in my office. I'm like, I wonder how the Lions are doing in Plano today. But I got a great staff. I got a great team.
Right.
And I know they were taking care of the taxpayers of Collin County, even though I wasn't there.
Good.
And, that says a lot about my team, and I know what they got accomplished. But yeah, there were some times that, looking down at the phone, like, what's my email doing? Okay, we're doing okay. But no, that was the politics side. You talk about it. If I could have interviewed for the job and gotten it, I would have. But that's not the way it's set up in this state.
That's not how it works.
It's set up with the Constitution back in the 1800s.
Right.
Which I think is just a little bit before I started my first campaign.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. We joke. I may have run the longest campaign in history to be a tax collector in the history of the world. But like I said, it paid off, and I'm honored to serve the taxpayers of Collin County, and proud to be the tax collector.
Well, I think we have good things ahead. I really, really appreciate everything you've done so far. And let me ask you this. So is part of what you do, does that also involve like the collecting the automobile taxes and stuff like that? So is that portion, like you come down, like they do the title transfers and stuff, like DMV type stuff, but there's taxes paid whenever a vehicle, transaction takes place. So what's your involvement in any of that?
Yes, we are actually a sub-agent of Tax DMV.
Okay.
So we do all the registrations. We register over 1 million vehicles a year.
Okay.
Here in Collin County. We do all of the title transfers. And the only sales tax that the county collects here in Collin County is for vehicle sales.
Oh, wow.
We don't
That's
get to
still 6.25%.
Yes, we don't get to keep a lot of that because most of that goes to the state, but the state is gracious enough to give us a little bit. I say a little bit. Our part of it last year was about $17 million.
Okay.
So my office is one of the few offices that can say that we actually bring more money into the county than we spent.
Good.
So if we just turned in our budget, my first official turning into the budget.
Right.
If I were to get everything I asked for, which that's not going to happen, my operating budget would be about $9.5 million.
Right.
But like I said, sales tax, our part of the sales tax alone was $17 million.
Good.
As an agent of Tax DMV, you'll see on your renewal statement like $475 handling fee.
Right.
The state does give us a little bit of that.
Okay.
I also get a quarter for every vehicle registration that's done online.
Oh, wow.
You can also, a lot of people don't know this, but you can go to Kroger, several Krogers and Tom Thumbs around the county and register your vehicle there. If you don't want to wait in line. Right. Especially you don't want to fight the construction at the McKinney office.
And that is the biggest negative there right now because they are redoing the building right there, that admin building. Is that Jack Hatchell or what is that? The name of that?
It's the Hatchell building.
Right.
And what they're doing is they're building a new medical services center. Mm-hmm. There was some federal grant money. It's saving the taxpayers close to $400 million by being able to use some of these federal grants that come through. Unfortunately, it just makes some parking difficulties.
It does right now. You literally can't You can't park actually in front of the main door on that second level to walk in. That's all blocked off.
Right.
And if it's raining, you've got a little bit of you're going to get a little wet unless you have an umbrella. But once you get down there, let me say this, and you may or may not have even anything to do with this, but I think this speaks volumes about what's going on down there. You think, kind of like people tell me, okay, what's it like going in for this review board thing? Like I envision it's like a table or like you're on the stand or something. It's nothing like that. And when you go in to pay for like a title transfer, to do any of that kind of business in that office, it is so streamlined and it is so amazing. I was in shock. You come up to a little kiosk, you get a number, and the waiting area is great. They've got lots of staff. Everyone's doing their thing and they're fast, they're efficient. It was actually a good experience. And I did not expect that whatsoever. I thought old days, and I've been actually in that office before when it wasn't so efficient. And you'd stand in a line and you didn't have any number and you have to like figure out which line do I need to be in. Oh, down there's this and up here's that. And if you need a birth certificate, it's over there. If you need a marriage license, you come over here. It was confusing. And I have to say right now, it's not. It's good. It's really, really good. So I don't know. Maybe you did all of that. Maybe you didn't, but it's great right now. I'm very happy with that office down there right now.
Well, I will give credit to my staff. One of the things that we came into the office and is the morale, the work environment. I wanted to that was my first thing. We're going to improve the work environment.
Nice.
And not that people are doing cartwheels when they come to work, but they're also not darting out of there and burning rubber to get out of the parking lot. You know, we're having fun. We're laughing. We're smiling. We're enjoying being there. And even on those long days, you come in, there, you get your number and you know exactly what window you need to go to. You're being called there. And we're doing little things to try to make things better every day. One of the things that I did my very first month there is gave out some service pins.
Oh, wow.
Service pins have been sitting around for over a year. People who had not been recognized for their service. I handed out a combined 160 years worth of service pins.
Wow, that's awesome.
Honoring those people for the service that they gave to the taxpayers of this county.
Very good.
And was proud to do that. And like I said, those are just the little things that we did. We've had some fun.
Right.
We're having some fun. Earlier this month, we did Autism Awareness Day, where everybody wore their autism awareness lighted up blue shirts.
Right.
Wednesday, we're going to wear, for the Stars playoff games, we're going to wear our victory green.
Nice.
And just have a little fun with that and support our local hockey team. I'm a big hockey fan, so we're going to.
You're actually wearing a Dallas Star shirt today.
Yeah, I'm going. So we got a playoff game tonight. So
nice.
We're going to enjoy. We're doing that kind of thing, and little things like that to try to make things better. Just to give people some things to help you a little bit. Don't come around lunch. Things do get back. Things get backed up a little at lunch. They're happy, but they do get hungry. So, we don't need anybody hangry. So things get back up around lunch. We do stop giving out title numbers or new resident numbers about 30 minutes before we close.
Okay.
Because those transactions take longer.
They do.
And I found when I first got there, people were coming in 2 minutes before we closed, getting that title number, and the staff. We closed at 4:30, and they were still in the office at 5:45.
Gotcha.
And I want our team to go home, spend time with their family, and have that balance. And so we cut that off 30 minutes before we close.
Very good. Is it better to go towards like the beginning of the month, the middle, or the end? Like when's the best time? I understand. Don't go during lunchtime. So when's the best day or days or week through the month in your opinion?
Probably about the 12th to the 22nd is probably your best time. It used to slow down more. It doesn't seem to slow down much at all. Some offices are a little less busy.
Right.
I'm not going to say that any of the offices are not busy.
Sure.
If you go right down the Dallas North Tollway to the Frisco City Hall, we have an office there that seems to be the little hidden gem.
Right.
That people don't know about.
Yep. Been there a few times.
The Frisco group, I'm not sure why. They don't seem to wake up till lunch. So go in there about 9 o'clock, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, a little faster to get in and out.
And that's in City Hall.
City Hall. Right. Currently, we're on the second floor.
Right.
They're going to be relocating us to the first floor.
Okay.
That move's going to happen in September.
Oh, wow.
So just kind of keep that in mind if going down that route is a place you want to go. Again, we already talked about the construction in McKinney. My busiest office location in the county is Plano. We do about walk-in traffic. About half of the walk-in traffic in the county comes through the Plano office.
Oh, wow.
They do on average of about 100 people a day more on average than the other two offices.
Gotcha. So, like you said, there are ways that you can avoid even having to go in at all if all you're doing is renewing a registration or something like that. That's Kroger, Tom Thumb, online. And there's some limits on that stuff. I think, I don't remember what all the limits are, but I mean, you can't, there's like some time limits, meaning, okay, if your registration hasn't been expired, and I'm just completely making this up. You probably know the dates exactly, but if your registration's been expired for 2 years, you can't do it at Kroger or something like that.
Right. And just keep in mind, we don't do safety inspections anymore, but we live in an emissions county, so you still have to do your emissions test. You can still do it the same place you used to do your safety inspections. It's just you have to do the emissions thing. So go in, and you don't have to wait till the month that you're due. You can do it 60 days before, 90 days before. But keep in mind, it's 90 days, not 3 months.
Gotcha.
So I just people err on the side of caution. Go in about 60, 70 days before your registration's due. Do your emissions test. Go online. If you got your green notice, go to Kroger, go to the grocery store, go to the county website, go to my page, tax Assessor-Collector page. There's a list right there. If you got any questions, email me, taxassessor@collincountytx.gov. You can find my cell phone on my campaign page, my Facebook page. It's 469-834-3588. Just give me a little time to sometimes respond. I take calls till about 9:30, and then I'm done.
You may get a few more now.
Yeah, I'm not answering calls after 9:30. Made that mistake, was on the phone till about 11 o'clock, 11:30 one night. We're not doing that anymore.
So I feel pretty good because I think I texted you around that time on, I feel like it was maybe even like a week. I don't remember when I texted you, but I felt like I was pushing it a little bit with when I texted you, but I'm that kind of person. Like I do this, I run 900 miles an hour all day. And then I find myself thinking that it's like 7:30 at night, and I'll text someone and I'll say, hey, how about this or this or this or this? And I'll look up like, oh my gosh, it's 10 o'clock. I don't realize. And so I make that mistake. I know I didn't text you at 10, but it was pretty late. And you were gracious enough to respond, and I appreciate that very much. Giving out your phone number right here on this show. We have 6,000 people that are going to listen to this show. You just gave your phone number out to 6,000 people. That's remarkable. I appreciate that very much.
Well, when I decided to run, I wanted to make myself available, and I wanted to be that elected official that was available for the taxpayers.
Nice.
One of the things that I used to be an auditor for the county, and it used to drive me nuts when I needed to talk to an elected official, couldn't find them.
Right.
Or I'd hear people in the political world that would say, only see them when they want to vote. I don't want to be that person.
Thank you.
I don't want to, I will say I do go home a little more often.
Right.
I'm not at meetings every single night.
Sure.
I changed my focus from political events to community events.
Right.
But I tried to go home, eat dinner with my wife more.
Right. That's a good thing to do.
There's probably nights that she wishes I was gone more. But no, she's a sweetheart. She's a saint. But and I love spending time with her. But I've kind of changed my focus. That it's about the community that I've been elected to serve, and I want to do that. And like I said before, it is my honor, and I'm proud to do it.
Well, I appreciate you coming here today, and we're right in the middle of that kind of assessment time. So the assessment notice has gone out. We have a deadline of when do they need to be submitted back? May the 15th?
May 15th is you need to let the appraisal district know that your intention is to file a protest.
Okay.
That doesn't necessarily, and they're going to, like I said, you're going to get an informal meeting with an appraiser. You can try going up to the appraisal district and just ask them to talk to an appraiser. Sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not.
Right.
And sometimes they'll come out and talk to you, and you can settle it right then. But you got to let them know before May 15th, because you miss that deadline, you're stuck until next year.
Right on.
And one of the things that I will say that, guys, this is step one. If you file your protest for your appraisal, that's only one half of that equation. The title is Assessor-Collector. The only assessing I do is I take your appraised value and I take the tax rates set by your entities, and then I send you a statement. That statement that we started this conversation with comes out in October.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to try to get it out as close to the first of the month as I can.
How many do you think you guys are sending out this year?
We collected, we have about 450,000 parcels.
Okay.
And we issue about 500,000 receipts.
Wow.
In property tax alone. Overall, about 1.8 million separate receipts with our motor vehicle.
Right.
And collect over $4 billion.
Nice.
In my office. And we balance that every day to the penny.
To the penny.
To the penny. And like I said, got a good crew that does that. It's hard to believe that what I collect today for property tax will be balanced tomorrow, and it will be in the bank accounts of your cities and schools on Wednesday.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that they can pay their bills,
right,
and provide the services that you expect.
That's awesome
to pay. So it's very streamlined. It's lots of checks and balances. Wouldn't have it any other way. And my audit nature, my fraud examiner nature, that's just the way it is. So always looking over their shoulder. My poor finance manager, I told her from day one, I used to hold your job, so you're probably going to get me looking in your office more than any other person because I used to have your job.
I like it.
And I know it better than any other job at this office.
Right.
So, no, she's doing a great job, as the entire finance team is. So
I feel like if everybody just, the public in general, and obviously you're in an elected position, and there's a certain amount of accountability that comes along with all of these jobs, whether it be a staff position that's not elected, or whether it be an elected position like you hold. We're learning that we no longer want to look at government and say, it's just ineffective. It's just government. It's just bureaucracy. It's all that stuff. Like, it can be better. You're proving it right now that it can be better. So I'm going to say it like this, and I'm not throwing any shade at any particular fast food restaurants, but I'd rather you be the Chick-fil-A version of the tax assessor collector office than some of the other places. Okay. If that makes sense. Absolutely. I'd rather you keep doing what you're doing, keep streamlining that process, keep the morale high, keep these dates and keep the accessibility. I mean, this is so different than the way that, we've all come to expect it. And I like it. So I appreciate the fact that you came here today. Is there anything else that we didn't really cover that you'd like to talk about?
No, like I said, it's accountability, transparency. That's what I ran on. That's what I'm working on. And we're going to keep working towards that. There's a lot of things that we're trying to keep getting cleaned up, and we'll constantly try to improve. My attitude for the office is this: I have a lot of laws to follow. If you ever have trouble sleeping, I'll loan you my copy of the tax code. It usually sits on my desk. I reference it a lot.
Right.
Probably my least favorite part of the job is I have to follow the tax code, and sometimes I don't necessarily agree with it.
Right on.
But I have to follow it.
Sure.
And that's there's a lot of laws that I have to follow. My staff is learning very quickly. When they ask me a question, my first question to them is, what does the law say?
Nice.
Because that's the way we're gonna follow the law. And if the law is gray, then we're going to be consistent in how we handle things.
Good.
That's what because we're going to be fair, we're going to be consistent. And it doesn't always fit into a nice little box, but we're going to follow the law. And so I'm proud of that. I've built a relationship with the people we have in Austin, and I follow what they're doing. And to me, the law is the minimum of what I have.
Right.
That just because I follow the law doesn't mean that's all I have to do.
Right on.
The citizens of Collin County deserve more. They deserve better. They deserve beyond what I'm required to do. I have partners, and the appraisal districts I work with, the entities that I work with, the schools, the cities, the county, the college, all the car dealers. Those are all my partners. Yes, they have no choice but to come to me. The car dealers can't go get their titles anywhere else. They have to come to my office.
Right.
But that doesn't mean I don't need to give them the best service possible.
Absolutely.
Because when you go to get a new car, I don't take care of what they give them the title and do the work properly, then you're stuck driving around without the proper tags.
Right.
So I need to work with that car dealership to get their paperwork processed in a timely manner so that you, the taxpayer, is taken care of. We're partners in this.
I like it.
So I see those as partners.
Very good.
I have lots of partners in this deal. And I work for the taxpayer. Someone asked me the other day, I was going on somewhere and was left about 5 minutes early. Who told you could leave early? I said, well, I just got a meeting to go to. Well, who's your boss? You are.
Nice.
They are a taxpayer.
Nice.
So I don't know. Don't need any other way to do it. It's just
it's good stuff. Though.
God, like I said, I was away for a few days. It was an important thing. I needed to go see my dad. I needed to check on him.
Right.
It's important stuff to do. But even my wife's like, honey, your crew's got this.
Right on.
You don't need to worry about it. And I knew that. And but I did come in this morning, and it's like, okay, what'd I miss? And they're like, we're fine. I know you're fine. I just want to know what I missed. So
very good.
But I do appreciate you having me out here. And anything else that comes up, anything I can do for you guys, please let me know.
Yeah, I think
because that's what I'm here for.
Maybe what I'd like to do is let's get past some of this political stuff. Let's get past some of this tax stuff that's going on right now. Let's get past some of this stuff, and then let's maybe reconvene, come back for a part 2. And let's learn a little bit more about you personally. And I'd love to know. I know you're over in Celina quite a bit. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Celina and some stuff like that. So let's do a part 2. Would you do that?
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. And guys, that is Scott Grigg.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Celina Radio Podcast. You can reach the host, Ron Lyons, at 214-783-5440. You can also email him at ron@ronlyons.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the Celina Radio Podcast, go to celinaradio.com and fill out the guest interest form. And until next time, guys, As we always say, stay safe and God bless.